Hey everybody, this is Sydney, and I'm going to be doing my reading log for February of 2024. Going to be starting off with some publishers where I had like one or two releases. First of all, we have Tier Moon Empire Volume 3. I absolutely am just loving the heck out of this series. It's kind of a villainess, kind of a redemption story. Um, I think I explained the concept of the first volume, but this volume had a lot of really wacky humor in it, and it's just continues to be the main character is just bullshitting their way through life, and everybody's falling for it. It's fantastic. It's like one of my favorite villainess adjacent series right now. Then we have that was Jade Novel Heart. We have two Square Enix releases with The Ice Guy and the Cool Girl Volume 3. Now, I'd watched the whole anime before I started reading the series, and the manga is really good. It's same level as the anime, the quality of the humor and the um, characters, all that sort of stuff. The art style I really, really love in this. It's a really pretty art style, and I think the characters are just continue to be great. It's nothing too complicated either, just simple office romance sort of thing. Then we have the final volume of I Think Our Son is Gay, which is volume 5. We finally have some revelation in this volume about uh, well, I don't want to spoil it, but I think we have a good ending for the series here, and it's shaped up to be my favorite Okura series because I wasn't a huge fan of that Blue Sky feeling, but I did really enjoy this one. It's again another really small, tiny Square Enix volume, but I'm kind of used to it at this point. Then we've got a debut volume, Since I Could Die Tomorrow, Volume 1. This is a manga about a woman who is experiencing menopause. Um, that's probably the best, simplest concept for it. Uh, it's her experiencing the start of menopause and learning about herself and learning about what the process is going to be like. I wasn't a huge fan of this one at the very beginning. It took me like over halfway through it before I really started enjoying it, but I think it does hit really well. And it's a very unique concept for manga. I don't think I've ever heard menopause talked about in a manga format, so it's very interesting to read about, especially considering that's something that is kind of out of my field of depth as a guy. Next up, we have actually, I didn't even specify that was Tokyo Pop. That was Tokyo Pop. This is the other Tokyo Pop. The Princess and the Villainess's Way, Volume 1. This is another Villainess series. I had a lot that I read and got this month. This one was a little bit confusing. I think this is the one that had. Yes, so the main character was reincarnated into this character here, but the person she's reincarnated from exists in this time period. She just reincarnated to a earlier time in a different body. It's a really confusing concept, but I like the relationship dynamic so far, and I'm excited to read more of it. Then we've got the only June, at least the only June new release I read, which is Romeo Volume 1. This was delayed so many times. I'm actually really happy to read it. It was an Omegaverse, which I didn't think I would like, but I think it handles the topics in a not weird way. Omegaverse has like a stigma against it, and I feel like I also perpetrate that stigma. But I think I think the thing that a lot of people just don't like about it is the male pregnancy stuff, which is really weird. But the way they handle the alpha and I think alpha and beta um, characteristics is really interesting. There is a very odd kind of like grooming age gap situation, so that's weird. That's something I kind of get used to. All right, so up next we have the. That was pretty much all of the smaller publishers or publishers that I didn't get that much from this month. I'm going to be going on to the big ones this month. So, starting with Kodansha, Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun, Volume 6. This volume focused on a Mary basically becoming a complete opposite version of herself. Again, I watched the anime, so I already knew everything that was going to happen, but I love the art style in this series, and I still think the manga is fantastic, even if you've already read the anime. Not really too much to say about it. We're 6 volumes in, and it's still a great series, in my opinion. Then we've got A Condition Called Love, Volume 6. This is also another. This is another shoujo romance series that I'm reading, and we delve more into some backstory in this volume, which is interesting. We learn a little bit more about the main male lead. I can't say I remember too much about the story. That typically tends to happen with me with these high school romances, where I read it and I enjoy it. A couple weeks later, I do not remember most of what happened, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm not going into huge details on it. Then we've got Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen, Volume 2, the spinoff of the Witch Hat Atelier series, which is this is just a cute read about the witches cooking and getting to kind of expand our ideas of the magic in their world and how the magic is used to create new dishes. Like a slight spoiler is one of them is having these discs that have a um, they have the essence of teas or fruits or things like that, and they have a contraption where you can stack multiple on top of each other for water to seep through to steep and get different flavors mixed into it. It's really, really cool. I think it does a great job at expanding on the already interesting magic system in Witch Hat Atelier. Then we've got One Dance Volume 8. I'm enjoying this series as well so far. My only problem with it, as always, is just sometimes it's a bit difficult to follow the movements, but I think that's just a me thing. I think it's still a good story, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about our main male lead and hoping he's able to be successful. We have the main female lead who's like really, really being successful for her age, and that's really good, but I hope the same thing happens for the main male lead as well. Then we've got Magic Knight Ray Earth 1 Volume 2. Um, I don't remember much of what happened in this volume. Um, I remember, I think one of the other girls awakened to their powers in this volume, and we actually had, uh, that's right, they acquired the legendary ore needed to make the weapons they need to use to defeat the great evil. I don't remember much of the story. I don't think Magic Knight Rayearth has like a super complex story. It's pretty simple. I just have forgotten a lot of it. Then we have a debut volume with Gazing at the Star Next Door, Volume 1 by Anmitsu. This really, really cute, fun shojo read. Shojo high school romance, because that's my bread and butter at this point. Um, I really like the dynamic between the characters, how it's childhood friends, and she wants him to really notice her and take her seriously, and it's a really interesting dynamic I haven't seen done before in this type of format. It might have happened before and it just I haven't read it, but I do really, really like this, and I love the design of this manga. It's so gorgeous. The art style's great. um, Next for Kodansha, we have the most expensive volume for this month, which is Vinland Saga Volume 1. Vinland Saga had a lot of hype going into it, and I think it lived up to that hype very well. Yukimura is fantastic at creating worlds and building from real historic influence and making these really interesting stories. This is a series that I would recommend to most people. Um, I think the only type of people I wouldn't recommend it to are people who just don't like strongly dislike violence or um, aren't able to like look past the way that people were in these time periods. Um, but I think it's a fantastic story so far, and I'm really looking forward to reading more of it. All right, so that out of the way. Next, I'm going to be getting into the Viz releases, starting with Sakura Saku Volume 2. In this volume, we have the main female lead. Let's see. I really don't remember this volume either, honestly. I all I remember about this is that I do really enjoy it and I like the dynamic between the characters. I like that it's the main girl exploring what it means to love somebody and what it means to like somebody and figuring out where she draws the line and how she can tell her own feelings. I did really enjoy that. I promise I liked these shoujo romance high school manga. I just for the life of me do not remember the specifics of them. Then we have Rainbow Days Volume 8. Yet another shoujo romance high school. I have to like read the synopsis to kind of remember exactly what happened. Yeah, yeah, okay. To be honest, I don't really remember this much of what happened this volume either. I mean, like, Rainbow Days is also just kind of not my favorite. It's grown on me a bit, but it still hasn't like really taken my interest yet, which is unfortunate because we're 8 volumes in. But yeah, it was okay. Next, we have my special one, Volume 5. And I'm personally not really liking this series much anymore. Like, ever since the main two characters got together, it seems like things are just kind of, their relationship's not fantastic. It's just very clingy, and like, I like the male lead. He's just, he definitely does not act his age. He acts the same age as her, which is an interesting dynamic. I think we also have like the hint of another romance kind of going on in the background. Oh, right. We have the a potential third or second love interest for the main female lead, and it's, I mean, it's not going to work out with them. She's going to stick with him. There's no doubting that. Then we have My Hero Academia Volume 37. I don't want to talk about this or show the cover because it's massive spoilers. Um, Not really a fan of what happens in this volume. I think it feels very contrived to do what I think they're doing, and I'm just losing a lot of hope for My Hero Academia with all of these weird plot developments that are happening. So that's unfortunate, but it is how it is. Next, we have Mission Yozakura Family Volume 9. This had a lot of action and a lot of individualized fights, which I really do like in shonen series. I like when we have different characters getting a chance to shine on showing their specialties in combat. Cover is also gorgeous. Like, all the colors and all of the dynamic posing is fantastic, in my opinion. Next, we have Free Run Volume 10. This has been getting very big with the anime, which is super great for the series. We get a lot more detail on the current villain's backstory in this volume, which is really helping flesh out his character. I love when villains get good backstories, especially when they aren't made to be fully sympathetic. It's just a way to help us understand them. Then we've got a Kanebanashi Volume 4. This is wrapping up a competition that, is her name actually Akane? Okay, yeah, it is. I wanted to say that, but I'm like, wait, is it really? But yeah, wrapping up a contest that Akane joined in order to try and speak to the man who is responsible for her father leaving the industry. Um, really great series. I'm super happy people are liking it as much as they are. Next, I have the first volume of the newly published Kazuo Umez series. My Name is Shingo. This is very different than the other Kazuo Umez series I've read so far, which are Orochi and um, Cat Eye Boy, which are both kind of like horror anthologies. This is seemingly focusing on like robotic AI and robots developing sentience, which is really interesting from a horror artist and a horror creator. And we're like focusing on these two children and their experiences with that. And I really like it. I'm looking forward to reading more of it. That's all the Viz series. I'm going to get into 7 Cs now, starting with a villainess who has been killed 108 times. I think this is probably my least favorite villainess series. It really just feels like they're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Like, I had a hard time remembering what happened in the first volume and the second volume. What I remember is not favorable. Not to mention the terrible light novel at the end. I'm sorry to people who liked it, but it felt gross to read. It was really fan servicey, which is not something I'd expect in a villainess series. I'm not a fan of this series, to be honest. Next up, we have the Tree of Death Yomotsu Hegui, Volume 1. I really liked this. It had some really interesting action and Lovecraftian elements mixed with a concept rooted in Japanese mythology, literally called, I think, the Yomotsu Hegui, which I think that might just be this manga's title, and Tree of Death is probably a subtitle. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this to many people. It's a fantastic horror action series that seems to be pretty short. I think it's ending in like a few volumes. Next, we have My Cute Little Kitten, Volume 2. This is a cute GL romance between uh, two adult women who are living together, trying to build their lives together, and they end up taking in a kitten. It's very, very, not extremely explicit, but very suggestive. Which, I mean, I'm not going to fault it for that. I'm just not really, I kind of just look past those sections where it gets really suggestive just because I like reading about the romance and the interpersonal relationships more than I like reading about the sensual things between women. But I think this is a cute series. It's nothing fantastic, but it's cute, and I like learning about their relationship. Then we have Dungeon People Volume 3. This is a very, very slow release. It's easy to forget what happened between the volumes for this. Let's see. Actually, don't really remember what happened in this one either. Yeah, honestly, I just don't remember what happened in this volume. I remember the very beginning, but I don't really remember much else. It was okay. I'm not like in love with Dungeon People. I think the story's interesting. The art's okay. I think it's pretty middle of the road for me personally. Then we've got 2.5 Dimensional Seduction Volume 9. I really, really like this series. In a similar vein of 100 Girlfriends, it's very fan service heavy, but I think this one kind of does it to really help with developing the characters and the plot. I think it kind of feeds back into the harem aspect, and it's funny and it's easy to look past that if you're okay with fan service or just mildly okay with fan service. It's got good humor and good character relationships, and the cosplays, even if they are scanty, are really cute and pretty well done. I like the story a lot so far. Then we have Punch Drunk Love Volume 1. Very, very explicit BL manhwa um, about a man who discovers one of his coworkers is very, very dominating, and it's the coworker he has a crush on. So hijinks ensue. It's really it's kind of toxic, but it's really a fun read. Especially if I think you'll only want to read it if you are attracted to men. If you're not, then I don't know. It just would feel like a weird read. Next, we have Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation Volume 5. I'm enjoying the story for this series. Uh, things are. I don't really remember too much about it, honestly. It's so many details that I just can't keep up with a lot of it. It's not political intrigue, but it's a lot of concepts that I'm not really used to because I don't really read Chinese stories much. I mean, we get a backstory in this volume about one of the characters. We get some revelations in this volume. I'm enjoying it. I promise I'm enjoying this series. I just don't remember too much of the finer details about it. Then we have A Stepmother's Martian, Volume 3. The glare. I'm just going to cover that. This is a really, really good villainess series. It's got a lot of political intrigue, but I remember specifically this volume was about a false charge and how it affected everybody and how much the main character was willing to sacrifice to save her son, which was fantastic. And I think this is shaping up to be one of my favorite series, not even just villainess series. It's wonderful. Now we're going to move into Yin Press, starting with the Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess. It's had some like tear jerking elements to this volume when we wrapped up an arc. Um, I kind of lost interest in the series like a little over halfway through because it feels like they were just kind of there wasn't like a real plot. It felt like things were just getting thrown at the wall over and over again. Um, and I'm not. I want to hold my breath to see what happens in Volume 10, but the way things are developing, I'm not really. I don't see myself enjoying this anymore going forward. I'm gonna keep reading it because it's villainess and I'm interested in it, but I don't really enjoy it. Then we've got Oshinoko Volume 5. I think this is starting to get to the point where we're past the anime. Yeah, this takes over right after we end the anime. It's a really, really interesting story in this volume. Beginning of a new arc, I should say, talking about the live action stage play that they're going to be working on. I don't want to say too much, but I think it's really, really cool, and I like it a lot. Uh, It's also more focused on Aqua than Ruby this time. Next, we have the Villainess Dance the Heroes Volume 3. This is a pretty cute villainess series. Very, very. She just like openly loves everybody in this series. Also, I just noticed he's a cat, and that's so cute. I didn't notice she had a little keychain of him. It's perfect. Anyways, yeah, I enjoy this series. We're wrapping up an arc in this volume as well. It's a like a mini arc. I definitely recommend it if you like stan culture or if you like villainess series. Then we've got Not So Wicked Stepmom. I think this is volume 3. This is a good, enjoyable villainess series about a woman who is basically just pampering the heck out of her daughter or her stepdaughter after she went back in time to relive her previous life. And it's good. It's enjoyable. I love the embroidery things in it. I love how it plays into the characters and the concept of the story. It's an enjoyable, good villainess series, in my opinion. Also, a redemption series. Then we've got The Villainess Turns the Hourglass, Volume 2. Of course, I don't have to tell you this is a villainess series. It's kind of in the name. We have some drama developing between the main character and the person who is, well, the villainess and the main character, in quotations, the person who's the real villain. Um, we have them kind of seemingly fighting over the affections of this man that is supposed to be with the main character, but the villainess is trying to basically win over. Um, it's really interesting. I love seeing the way they're like bouncing off each other and fighting each other because that never really happens in villainess series. Then we've got A Business Proposal, Volume 4. This is really starting to get into the romance between the two main leads, which, not the people on the cover. This is a straight series, not gay. Um, and it seems like we're actually starting to get real development into their relationship, aside from just the falsities and the fake relationship, which I'm really happy about. I really enjoy this series, and I think the main male lead is cute. Sue me. Um, then we've got Bloody Sweet Volume 2. This is a really cute, um, I think it's actually fairly short series. It's like a vampire and a outcast girl who's the daughter of a shaman. And I really like the story in in this series. I think they have good character dynamics between the two, and I like the bullying and how the bullying plays out, like the after effects of it and everything, and how the characters grow from it. I think it's a really good series. Then we've got Villains Are Destined to Die, Volume 6. We have some beautiful writing in this volume. Oh my gosh. Like, look at this. Look at this. All this time you were emphasizing trust and you had not one drop of faith in me. Oh my gosh. The main character is just hitting these banger lines, really just exposing these people for the false, the narrative they try and set up about their own life and how they're seeing her and interacting with her. Fantastic series. I really hope it gets an anime at some point. Then we've got Kowloon Generic Romance Volume 6, continuing to be unpredictable with these plot twists and the story that's getting so much happening and so many new things being added to it. I really just want to see how it ends at some point because I don't know how all this is going to wrap up neatly. It's really interesting read though. Lastly, for the new releases I read, we have Doomsday with My Dog Volume 4. Very cute, very interesting slice of life, 4 coma type series. I say 4 coma type because those comas are really, really packed with dialogue. I really enjoy this series and I definitely recommend it to a lot of people. It does get pretty sad sometimes, so just be aware of that though. Okay, now I'm going to get into the series that I read in February that came out a while ago. Things that have been in my backlog that I'm finally getting around to reading. I'm going to be starting with June with Sumasaki ni Korosu by Aki Aoi. This person wrote Entangled with You, Garden of 1,000 Grasses. It's a really good, captivating romance between a student and a teacher who are in college. So it's not the uncomfortable age gap between minor and an adult. It's an adult and adult. I'm pretty sure it's college at least. Yes, it's college. So they're both legal adults, which makes this a lot more palatable. And it does get some interesting facts about Um, Mycology, I think is what it's called, the study of fungus. Does it actually say on the back? Yeah, mycology. Interesting facts, interesting exploration into mycology and the relationship between these two. I really love Aki Aoi's works. They're wonderful BLs without being explicit, which is real. It seems to be pretty rare that there's well, it's Shonen Ai. Shonen Ai's BL that's not explicit. Anyways, it's a really good series, regardless of me not remembering demographics properly. I started the first volume of Moon and Sandals in February by Fumi Yoshinaga. This is the first series of hers that I've read. I love it so much. It's really interesting. The concept's nothing spectacular. It's a teacher and a student who wants to go for the teacher because he has developed feelings for him, and he finds out the teacher is gay, or at least attracted to men. I don't want to say fully gay. Um, so I'm not sure if it's going to end up with these two together. It seems like it's going to be the way that I prefer it, which is the student doesn't end up with a teacher and the student learns from the experience. But I think Yoshinaga is a wonderful writer, and I'm really looking forward to reading more of her works and continuing Moon in the Sandals. Then we have four Udon releases that I read, which is Persona 4 Arena Ultimax 4, volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I didn't want to deal with putting them back the way they were supposed to be, so now we get this. Now we just have it like this. Let's just do that. Um, I enjoyed this. I think it does a great job of capturing the story of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. It didn't have a complicated backstory that needed to be captured, so I think it did a really good job with that. I think that looks a little that looked like a different symbol. Um, I remember kind of being a little iffy with. I think it actually tried to add some story into it, which was a little bit weird. Overall, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the first series, but I think it was still a good adaptation of the Persona 4 Arena Ultimax story. Okay, these are just getting set over here. I can't move things with these gloves. I mean, with my totally real hands, not gloves. What am I talking about? Anyways, we have one Denpa release with Shino Can't Say Her Name by Shuzo Oshimi. Hands down, my favorite Oshimi work. It's a great story about bullying and the trauma inflicted on this young girl, and how it affected her way of life, and how she was able to eventually, spoiler alert, move past it. And I think it's a wonderful series, and even if you don't like Oshimi, I think it's worth reading. Then we're going to get into the Viz releases, starting with Solanin by Inio Asano. This was a very, it's a weird thing to say. This story felt very Western. It feels like something I would watch as a TV show, not like watch as an anime. Um, but it might just be because that experience is a very universal experience of graduating college and not really knowing what to do, or having a job that's basically at a black company, which is somewhere who doesn't just basically abuses their employees, not physically, but virtually. They're terrible companies to work for. Um, I believe she worked at a black company. If not, she worked at a company she wasn't happy at, and she ended up leaving her job, and it's about her trying to find herself in life. It's a very heart wrenching one shot. Of course, the writer of Goodnight Poom Poom writes a one shot that's heart wrenching. It's a really good read. You just have to be prepared for it going into it. Next, I've got Yu Yu Hakusho 7 to 10. Um, again, trying to catch up on the series slowly. I've been trying to read it for a while now. I really enjoyed this. It's getting into everyone's favorite arc, which is the tournament arc, the Dark Tournament. I don't really have too much to say about it. Yu Yu Hakusho is a very, very well-known shonen. I don't really think I have to explain too much of the details. But I got 4 volumes through this month, and I was really happy with it. I am very much enjoying the manga so far. Lastly, I read a 1/7 Seas on my backlog, which was Total Eclipse of the Eternal Heart. I just learned that this author also did Go For It Nakamura-kun, I think, which is either a BL or a Shonen Ai. I really like the story for this. It was really interesting, and better to be not really explained. It's better to go into this completely blind. It's got really weird, like, abusive dynamics, but I think it's a really great story. But yeah, I think that's everything for this month. I remember to record in landscape this time, so hopefully I am remembering that for future videos. Anybody has any comments, suggestions, criticisms, please leave it in the chat below or in the comments below. I can take it if it's something mean, as long as it's not completely disparaging. I know I'm still trying to get my footing with figuring out the best way to format these things, so I'd really appreciate the feedback. But again, thanks so much for your continued support, and I will talk to you guys next month.